And we're off to the races, like I normally say. Guys, I am super excited because guess what? It's Christmas time in the city, right? Yeah, Christmas was 2 days ago to be exact. And I hope everyone got everything they wished for because I didn't. Kidding. Joking. I got everything I needed. I have most of the things I need, thank God. So I don't really need a whole lot. So Santa doesn't come to my house because guess what? We don't have a chimney. Take that, Santa. So you can go to somebody else and make somebody else's life brighter. Speaking of which, today, guys, this great show we're going to have. We have a wonderful person. She's amazing in more ways than one, and you will understand why shortly. It's not every day that I have a person that helps people, by way of therapy, and not just any kind of therapy. She helps a lot of people with ADHD and folks, students that look at the world differently, if you will. And these are the youth and adults alike. We are joined today by a neurodivergent occupational therapist, OT, speaker in education with well over 15 years of experience supporting our wonderful youth, children, like I said, and adults as well. Her work is how people make sense out of the nonsense and make sense out of their bodies, their minds, and to basically help everyone else shed light on what's going on in the brain and talk to them and whatnot. So talking we shall, right? Shall we just introduce our next guest? The wonderful, lovely Nikki Smit. Take it away.
What an intro. I
Happy
love it.
holidays. Holy
Happy
moly.
holidays. Good to
Super
see
excited. I
you.
feel like I've known you forever. How you doing?
I'm good. I am very excited to be here. That was quite the intro. You've got me all
Thank you.
amped up.
Yeah. Is there any other way of doing it? I don't know.
I
Because
don't know.
I
I
like
feel like
people
you
to
kind
feel
of like
right at home.
match my energy, so I'm here for it.
I'm excited. Did you get everything you wanted for Christmas and the holidays? Everything good? Eat a
You know,
lot?
I'm actually here in the US visiting my family. I live
Okay.
in Singapore.
Okay.
And so I guess, yeah, I did. I got to hang out with my family. So
Let
that
me tell
feels
these people here.
feels
I'm
really
excited. Where in the United States?
I am in New York City.
New York City. My son's headed out that way, actually.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
For
Did you guys
for
eat well?
we sure did. We cooked big and had some leftovers today as well, which was great.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Wow, it's fantastic. Yeah, we did too. And this morning I couldn't even put on my shirt. I'm trying to, when I told you I'll be right back, I was fighting with the shirt. And you're just thinking, oh, he's probably getting all the logistics kind of squared away. And I'm like, oh, God.
Well, it looks good. It looks good.
Thank you. I did the best I could. I got two pieces. I taped them and I stitched them up as fast as I could. No, I'm totally kidding. So you had the cyber cookies, I take it? Did you eat the cyber cookies? Because Santa's not coming, as I told you. Did you eat the cyber cookies?
I guess I don't know about
Yeah.
these cyber cookies.
You were in the green room. You ate the cyber cookies.
Okay. Okay.
So let's talk about how we reimagine and how we look at life. I mean, let's start there because what you do now, putting on our thinking caps, if you will,
Mhm.
what you do is rather amazing. Let's talk a little bit about what you like doing and how you go about helping people because the neural, from what I understand, the neural, the brain divergent kind
Mhm.
of person, I'm one of those. I have ADHD. I don't know if you could tell. This wasn't Red Bull or anything. This is who I
I
am on a
know.
daily.
It,
So
I just feel like I can relate to you so much that I guess I had a little hint.
you do. You do. It's commonplace these days. It's called TikTok. They just set all
Yeah.
our kids to be everywhere but where we're supposed to be, right? And you're in occupational therapy, so
I
God
am.
bless you for that. That's fantastic. Um, how did you fall down into this burrow, if you will? How did you decide, you know what, this is exactly what I'm gonna do? Did you meet somebody that maybe somebody in your family that practiced maybe psychology, that's some
Mm.
kind of therapist or helps students or adults on any capacity when it comes to the brain?
I think, I think I almost feel a little bit like OT chose me because, as you mentioned, I am neurodivergent myself as well. So I'm a
Okay. Okay.
neurokin. And
Got it.
so
Welcome to the
I think,
tribe.
yeah. I think, as a kid, I had amazing parents who didn't have the language and the resources and the kind of access to things that we have today, but kind of like followed their intuition and
Got it.
accommodated me in their own way. I always remember my dad I would be running around the room, upside down on the sofa, like shouting out my ideas to him. And he
Beautifully
would be
done.
scribing them and asking me questions. Do you mean this or do you mean that? And I'd be like, no, I mean this. Come on, Dad. And, just beautifully figuring out ways to help me express myself. And got me into music and dancing and all kinds of things like that. And so I think I always knew that I wanted to make a difference in the world. I always knew that I wanted to work with people. I was always fascinated by the brain and by human
Love it. Yeah.
relationships. And so I think those things kind of just came together, a love for neurobiology and then psychology and understanding how people connect to each other, and then having some people in my family who had some support needs and kind of watching how they accessed support and
Sure.
when I figured out what OT was, I was like, that's so cool, because really what OT is about, we think occupation means your work, but it's
Yeah.
actually what do you occupy your time with that's meaningful to you.
Fantastic.
And
Yeah.
so it's like we use things that are meaningful to people to support them, and we also help them access the skills to be able to participate in those things. And so it just like kind of came together beautifully.
It did come together beautifully. Um, I find that, I got to tell you, because, a lot of us have no idea that, processing information, how your brain processes information. Many a times, when you sort of short circuit something, or your brain kind of tells you, no, this is a better way of doing something, because you
Mhm,
look at your backlog of things that
mhm,
you've already accomplished, and then you realize, if you go here, it's almost like a shortcut, because you already know that you do this. So, like, say you're going to put your hands on the fire, rest assured you're going to be crisp, your hands going to be crisp and crazy,
mhm.
and you're going to remove it right immediately. So those things you learn quite early, right?
Yeah.
And things like of that nature tend to be things that we take for granted, but they're stored away in our compartmentalization in our brain, in our backlog. And then what happens a lot of times is they come to the forefront when you need them most. And so therefore we don't realize it, but in many ways, we are our own therapists. In
Mhm,
many ways, we make sense out of the nonsense, I say. We create, like the neurotransmitters are always working, you know, and we understand that we can create a shortcut. You try to figure things out,
mhm,
and that sort of thing. So everyone kind of, I believe that for the most part, if I'm not mistaken, the fact that we're uniquely different has got to tell you that we sort of make sense of things differently, right?
mhm,
And
mhm.
albeit sometimes, in a funny manner, like people will look at you different, like, wow, you're awkward, you're eccentric, you're this, you do that. And how
Fabulous.
is it that you do five different things, Jim? Or how are you able to, and little do we realize that most of us have that capacity to understand our minds more so than we like to admit, you know
Mhm, mhm.
um and many in many respects they think we're oddballs, and we look at stuff differently, when in fact everybody looks at life differently. Everyone has a
Exactly.
right. Everyone has a different sort of it's varied in how you make sense of something, or how your brain kind
Right.
of you process things.
And
So I like that. I like that we're all in some way therapists, and I'm more to that point. I got to tell you, I work with most of my life with children with special needs. So
Amazing.
yeah, and it's so dear and close to my heart. I love the topic of how the brains work, because a
Mhm,
lot of these students, clearly, a lot of them, they are, I call them superpowers. They have ways of looking at the world differently,
mhm.
and folks immediately will check out, and a lot of times, and they'll just dispel you and say, oh, you're bizarre, you have this and you have that, and get away from me. But no, I mean, the fact of the matter is, you're afraid of the fact that these people might take a little longer to process some information. But when it's all said and done, they do it in such a majestic, beautifully fashion. They do it in ways that you're like, wow, they're like geniuses almost. And that's exactly what they
Totally.
are. They're
Totally.
geniuses. And
I
when I had that chance to close encounter, if you will, to meet someone many years ago, and I'll stop here because I want you to continue to showcase who you are, and everything else, and all the wonderful things you do. But really, shortly here, if I may, I met this guy with Down syndrome many years ago, and in the olden days, there were, before the apps, this is pre-internet. I was a
Mhm.
child. He had Down syndrome, the guy, and he told me how to get to a place, and I had no idea how to access the buses, and he knew exactly how to get, like, turn by turn. It's
Yeah.
like having like MapQuest when we were kids, MapQuest. And then it's like MapQuest. Oh my God, this guy had it all in his head. And it
Mhm.
was all in his computer, in his noggin. And I'm like, oh my God, holy cow, I love the way this man thinks. It's way different. And I think that was something that, needless to say, it captivated me, and little by little, I started studying more into it, and I became, obviously fascinated with the idea, and then I have ADHD myself, and there's other things that's why I come along with it. But getting back to Nikki,
I love
yeah,
I
go ahead.
love what no, I love what you were just sharing there, because I think that's the beauty. That's what people don't understand, is neurodiversity actually
Right.
means diversity, that all brains are different.
Yeah.
Everyone is wired in a different way. And so
Yeah.
it really speaks to everyone. And
Right.
when we design for brains that are built in a so-called different way, we actually help everyone, because everyone has things that their brain makes harder for them, and then things that their brain makes easier for them, like you call it a superpower, right? Like
Yes.
I call it a beautiful strength, right? We build
Mhm.
our lives from our strengths. You're an amazing storyteller. You really
Thank you.
care about people. And so you've built your life from that place. Everyone does,
Yes.
right? And so I think what a huge part of what I do in my work is to help people figure out, what are those strengths? How can we harness those things? How can we build a life that supports our brain, supports our wiring? And then where are the things that I want to expand in? Because goodness, I hope I keep growing and evolving until I take my last breath. And we can, right?
Yes.
We know that the brain is plastic. And isn't that so exciting that I can continue to expand and grow? Not because I have to, but there's like a human desire in that, right? Like,
Yes.
I also loved what you said about how we want to make sense of things. Our brains are designed to be meaning makers. We're
Right.
always looking for
Always.
these
Yes.
clues. We're always looking for things to make sense of
We're like
what's
little
happening.
detectives almost. We're
We
detectives.
are
Yeah.
detectives. And I think that if we could, I actually think that's like a human, like one of the most beautiful
Trait.
things about
Yeah.
being human.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we lose our curiosity along the way, because we want to stay safe, and we want to stay
Yeah.
safe by trying to make predictions, trying to make judgments.
Right.
And
Right. Right.
actually, if we can lean into curiosity a little bit more, there's this beautiful fact in neurobiology that I love, that is, when you are in curiosity, you can't actually be judgmental,
Yes. Most
right?
definitely. I
And
agree with
so
you.
isn't that like such a cool
Mhm.
aspect? If we could lean more into our curiosity, then you can see the beautiful strengths. That's how you find out someone has this amazing mapping ability, right?
Sure. Yeah. Now, I love, what you said, and it's like leaning into curiosity. I think, do you, we can't help but wonder perhaps that, and this is just me assuming, but could it also be the fact that people do not want to be wrong? You're
Oh,
taught
yes.
you're taught not to be wrong because it's frowned upon. You don't want to make mistakes,
How
right?
sad,
And
right?
yeah,
Well, don't you think that some of the biggest growing opportunities and some of our, if I look back on my life where, oh, you made a mistake or something you didn't quite get right, those are growing opportunities.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I
We
think
are.
that,
We're so scared of getting it wrong.
yeah, it obviously comes from the ego. A lot of times the ego gets in the way, and won't allow you to kind of go in, almost like in the trenches of unfamiliar territory. You're
100%.
afraid of kind of going there because it's such a daunting feeling to think if you're wrong, people are going to oust you and say, I told you.
Exactly.
Common sense tells you that that's not the way to go.
Exactly. And it's because we're wired to be in connection with each other. So
Mhm.
I always think there's like two things that our brain is constantly doing. One is to keep us safe for
Yes,
survival, right? We have to survive. And the other is to be in connection with each other. So I think that that piece of like not wanting to get things wrong is
right.
actually, it stems from a place of, I want to stay in connection with you.
Right, right. That's true. And also, more to that point, perhaps you not wanting to be an oddball, you know,
Yeah.
and like different, classified
Hmm.
as, oh, that square, you mean the square? That dude is just bizarre. That girl is so
Yeah.
weird. You have to talk to her, and it goes back to the social connections. You want to be part of the circle. And a lot of times we
Yeah.
want to be accepted. When I was in high school, I'll tell you a story. So when I was in high school, many, many moons ago, um we had like anything else, factions, right? You had your
Right.
rockers. I was somewhere in the middle. I was like a rocker. I went, and then I was going to school, and then I was sort of like, back then it was, from, believe it or not, where I come from, it was frowned upon to tell folks that you studied. Like, people wouldn't tell folks that they studied hard because you would be considered a nerd. And boy, was that frowned upon, and you could pretty much, rest assured that girls were not going to look your way at all, no matter what you look like. The fact of the matter, if you were like just in that sort of circle, yeah, they want nothing to do with you. You get excluded. And I found a good way of a happy medium. So I would get home, and rightly so, I get right to the books and do everything I needed to do because I wanted progress. Because in my where I grew up, it was a dangerous little town, and there was a lot of gang activity, drugs,
Mhm.
and whatnot. And there was a lot of parties. We went to parties. I went to a lot of parties. I had family that liked to have parties, and some of these house parties were irreverent, crazy, and anything you can imagine could happen there because. Guess what? We had no security. We were the security. So you had a
Right.
party, you had people that were security. So what I'm trying to get at is nobody wanted to be different, Nikki.
Right.
People didn't like outliers. They didn't like folks that were, then they went out of the way to make sure that you were kind of pegged as the different, the oddball, the square,
Mhm.
the third wheel. Oh, you can handle. Yeah, tell him. Let's not tell him so he doesn't go to the party. And
Right.
I was able to somehow, um, and I hope this doesn't come from a pompous way, but because I'm not trying to, what I'm trying to make is just make a point here. Mom was such a student of life till she
Mhm.
took her last breath. She always wanted to learn. She was curious, and
Mhm.
curiosity is where it gets you to what we're talking about,
Mhm.
to knowing more, and knowing more makes you smarter, I guess,
Mhm.
if you put it that way. But so I would go home and study. I went to school and I didn't tell people I studied. So it was
Oh.
like, oh, I took the test, and yeah, I had a little cheat sheet thingy going on here. I went through school, like through my high school. My last 3 years were like that. And then I got out of high school and went to college. And but what I was trying to get at, it was like I had to hide this persona almost. Like, I go, these people really knew who I was. And many of the times I would throw out a word and, what is this, dude? What are you talking about, bro? Like, you sound you sound weird. Like, what are you smoking? Let me take a hit
Mm,
of that. And then they would
mm,
laugh. And I always look back on that, and I find how funny things have changed, thankfully, in many ways. But
mm,
one of the things that don't change is factions. If you watch The Breakfast Club, is a perfect example of a movie where everybody has factions and nobody, and they're one, they have to sort of, they realize that all that is like, you shed all those skins, right? Of, oh, you're this, you're tag that, you're.
mhm,
But one thing towards the end of the movie that's clear is, we're not doing this again. We're not hanging out together because you and I are considered perceived different by the world standards, by the
right.
norms, the school norms and stuff. And I think that a lot of times, more, we're talking about mapping, how people map and look at
Mhm,
things way different than others. People don't want to be different. That's
yeah.
that's the thing. They want to be part, they want to be followers, because that's, like you said, it's almost like you want to feel safe. And
Mhm.
safe is being part of something
Try.
bigger, the group. Yeah,
Mhm. And that's almost like evolutionary, right? We used to have to be, we relied on each other for survival, right?
true.
Maybe I couldn't, I don't know, what's a good example? I couldn't go and hunt the mammoth, but
By
I
yourself.
could by myself, definitely not.
For starters, you go to group.
I needed my crew, right? And so
Right.
that's part of it. And I think what you're talking to is something that I often refer to as masking, where we kind of put on these masks and
Hmm.
we have a different persona for different
Sure.
in different spaces. And sometimes I think masking is complex because in some contexts we have to mask, and there's a safety element to it,
Right.
right? Where there are times where we can't fully be authentic, and that's, you know, that's also a little bit how society functions, is that we all kind of know that there's certain things that we have to do sometimes. But the challenge is when we are unaware of it and when we don't have spaces where we can be ourselves, where we can be authentic, because it takes a great toll on your mental health to have to wear a different persona all the time.
Yeah, I agree with you. It does. Um, what have you seen? You talk about that, what have you seen in some of your patients or people that you see,
in
where
terms of in terms
you
of the
know,
toll that it can
yeah,
take.
that it's taken on their lives and their minds, and do
Yeah,
they
I
shut
mean,
down, or what is the
yeah.
characteristics? What does that
I
look like?
think I think what happens is that stress, we think of stress as it slowly accumulates over time, right? And so by the time you see someone shutting down or having a meltdown or a breakdown, it's very tempting to look at what's happened just before that. But the
Yeah,
reality is that things stack for us slowly over time. And that might be something like having to hide who you are or having to put on a mask for society. It might be how you experience your sensory world, might be very overwhelming for you.
sure.
Relationships. So, all of those things kind of build over time. And yeah, it kind of comes down to having this experience of sometimes shutting down and just not being able to be present to your experience. And so that can really take its toll over time, for sure. Yeah.
Now, coping mechanisms. What do you help or you suggest for people when they break down? What does that look like? How assess the situation and you really talk to them, and by talking to them, are there coping mechanisms that you put in place, and if so, can you share some of them with us?
Yeah, of course. So I think first and foremost, tying in so beautifully to everything we've talked about, we're wired to connect. So really having some a handful of people, you don't need a lot of people that you feel safe with, that you can really spend time with and connect with, and hopefully be a little bit more authentic with. And I think that even if you can think of, if you're listening to this right now, like who are your top 3 people that you kind of can rely on and connect with. And even if that's like a moment of connection where you just like sending them an audio message or a text or something like that, that still counts. So that's the first part, is really just, and it doesn't have to be a therapist, right? Not everyone has access to a therapist. Most people don't. So it can be.
I'm your cheapest alternative, by the way. Most affordable. I'm lived.
Yeah. So that's, and then there's a lot of things that we can do with our bodies, because I think it's very tempting for us to think that we can think ourselves out of stress. But the reality is that when you are in like a heightened or overwhelmed state, that your logic and reasoning part of your brain basically goes offline. So when we think, oh, we can, I don't know if you've ever tried to like talk someone out of being really upset, or you've mentioned earlier that you have kids. So I'm sure
we talk to them, and then there's, obviously if you go based on the textbooks, they have peaks and valleys, and they go up and so they come down when they're ready to talk. They talk, and then you give them something like a coloring paper, a book activity, or something they can do to de-stress. Take some few deep breaths. Hey, how are you doing? Let's count back from 10 to 1. I mean, it's stuff that takes time and effort, and everyone kind of, their minds work differently, so you got to kind of bear with them. But I love that, what you're saying, because I mean, there's so many high pressure environments that we live in. There's teachers, like us, educators, leaders, and creatives, and everything takes its toll. And I wanted to ask you something while we're on the subject matter. Do you think that, we just recently I saw the Adam the Wool, the YouTuber that passed away, and so many YouTubers die weekly. I mean, you look on TMZ and all this, like, people are dying TikTok at record speed. Folks are just, some people are taking their lives. I don't know. Do you think, is it fathomable to think that perhaps the pressures of staying on top and all that other stuff can cause, I mean, there are a lot of elements that we won't know. I mean, quite frankly, we're just making assumptions here. But you think that the world is at a point where, like, the creatives, for example, it's so much pressure to stay ahead of the curve, to be like the person, and then suddenly maybe you fall as number 3 now on the list. It's almost like being a multi-billionaire on the Forbes list, and then you drop down to 50. Oh, gee whiz. Now I'm number 50. I was a number 10. Rich people problems. But there are those pressures for everybody, right?
Yeah. I think that modern society, in the modern world, we have so many stresses and so many micro stresses that are stacking all the time for us. And the trouble is that in older times, we would naturally complete what we call the stress cycle. So you would have outlets, right? You would chase the lion, or think you're being chased by a lion, and then you would kind of have some downtime, or you would have outlets, and we have less of that.
Now we chase the magic dragon.
Now we're chasing all kinds of other things.
Other rabbits, right? Oh, you're right. You're right about that.
And so it's just, I think also when we think about stress management, we think about what can I do in the moment when I'm stressed, but we're not very good at being proactive about it and having little things. I think of it like a balloon that's constantly blowing, and then eventually it explodes. And how are we letting some air out of the balloon every day, right? Like, what are your practices that are helping you release stress through your body? Because yes, thinking is important and thinking helps, but thinking is later in the process, and it's not as effective quickly. So things like movement is a huge stress release. And it doesn't have to be like a gym workout. Of course it can be, but it can be just walking to another room, standing up, wiggling in your chair. Both of us have been kind of moving a little bit the whole time. We need that to stay regulated to stay grounded.
Yeah.
Things like another one that's a really good one that I've introduced into my life a long time ago. And at first I had to be quite conscious of it, but now I find myself just naturally doing it, is intentionally extending your exhalation. So making your exhale longer
just
than
longer.
your inhale. And
Right.
that is something that we do naturally, right? Like you sigh when you feel bad for someone, or when
I'm
you're
so sorry.
frustrated, right? When we cry, it's kind of like a sigh. So we naturally do that. And what that does is it slows down your heart rate, and it just signals safety to your nervous system. So those are kind of things that you would just be bringing into your day on the regular, and you'll probably notice you do some of them already.
So you talk about catharsis, like emotional baggage that you hold on to that compounds over time, and now you're letting it out via breathing, the sigh of relief. Oh dear, I'm sorry to hear this, but somehow you do feel different. Chemically wise, you feel so different when you do that.
Yeah.
You're right about that. You're
It's a
so on the
change.
money.
It's
You're
literally a
so
change in your body. And if you look at animals, like there's a great book, I think it's called Why Zebras Don't Get Anxiety or something like that.
That's so
And
cool.
it's so cool. You should check it out. Yeah. And one of the things they talk about, I mean, if you look at animals on the Sahara, like after they've been chased by their predator, they'll shake themselves. And that's exactly what you mean there. It's like letting go of some of that energy and just that release. And that's closing the stress cycle.
That's beautiful. I mean, do you think though, like, with the age of technology upon us, I mean, fact of the matter is, I mean, let's face it, it's never going away.
No.
It's only going to become more. And the overload of information that we download into our brains, quite naturally, it's going to bring you to a point of these heightened kind of stress levels that we have never, ever encountered before.
Well,
go ahead.
No, like I was just going to say, we're not supposed to be bombarded with these little chunks of information all the time, and if you think about the way that it comes on something like TikTok or Instagram, it's like cute cat video, genocide, like, we aren't designed to have information in that way. And so I think we have to be really intentional about how we consume stuff. And that's hard. And especially, I think, if for certain minds, the way some of our minds are designed, it's a real dopamine hit to scroll, which is why we get into this like loop of just like being sucked into the
You're like this for an hour.
And you're like,
are you praying? No, I'm on my phone. I'm on TikTok. You just we hit that nail right on the head for sure with that. I mean, the dopamine, like you get hits of dopamine like every 7 seconds, they say, boom, and you feel like you got to stay like, okay, what's next? Then you go down the rabbit hole. You're never going to get out of this, especially with all these like assumptions. And did you know that the world is actually squared? It's not so. And you're like, why would they say that? Well, let's look more into it. And you keep going into down
how they get you.
Like 45 minutes into it, it's come to realize, oh my God, perhaps I was lied to this whole time.
So dangerous.
It is. Now we talk about all these sort of elements coming together. You talk about the micro stressors, the little things that build up over time. It's a compound effect, and eventually it can have disastrous, if not really bad, ramifications upon your brain and your body as a whole, as we know it. Now let's talk about the desensitization. Suddenly, that adds to the fuel, if you will, because you don't see things anymore like we did. Like, remember in the olden days, if you saw like roadkill, you'd be like, oh my God, I'm so disgusted. The smell, oh my God, it's so foul. I'm gonna tell my parents, kind of thing. Now the kids go, hey, go bring your phone, dude. This guy, we're going viral. This is a viral moment. And forget the cats. I'm being like honestly generous. There's adults that get jumped or beaten up, and then they got them on like TikTok. That's how we end up finding out that dude, something happened at the local mall. So isn't this like an epidemic that's happening that's really bad because now young people and younger they have no sense of value over humanity. Like somebody could get pummeled, the homeless guy could get set on fire. And dude, this is great righteous, man. Let's go viral. And then
Terrible.
I'm being like honestly facetious and sarcastic. I just want to make the whole thing funny just because it's not. And
Yeah.
it's a problem that I'm starting to see more of.
Mm. Yeah.
Um I don't know. I think that it's important to have these conversations. You know, it's important for us to talk about disconnecting, right? At
Hmm.
times, and connecting more with with the human spirit, if you will,
Yeah.
with talking to people, with communicating with others, with learning
Nature, just
nature, right?
even getting outside, right? And I think
Yeah.
it's so important to create space that is non-stimulation time.
Hmm.
I need to find a better name for that. It's not so catchy, but
That's it right there.
it's like time without
Absolutely.
stimulation, because the really interesting thing is that it's actually when our mind is able to wander and kind of have you ever been like on a walk or in the shower and suddenly you have this idea that you're like, wow, I suddenly have this solution to a problem, or I've never thought
Yeah.
about it that way, and it feels like it just comes to you, and you're
Sure.
almost in like a
Sure.
dream-like state. And that is actually where our best problems are solved. That's
Hmm.
actually where our minds need that time, and we have less and less of it, because what do we do when we are on a commute? We take out our phones. What do we do when we're in the shower? We're playing music. What do we like? We are constantly, and I am so guilty
Guilty
of this. I
as
think,
charged.
like, especially, I find ADHD minds, like, we just are like stimulations. I'm like, how can I max out every square of time? How can I learn something while I'm showering? How can I,
Yeah. Yeah.
constantly? And actually, we need the opposite, because creativity comes when we have like nothingness.
Downtime.
Yeah.
Downtime.
So do less is the message.
Yeah, do less. Less is more.
Less is more.
Do less. Let me ask you, is there like a mantra? Do you pray in the morning? What does your day look like? How do
Mm.
you recharge, reinvigorate yourself, if you will, to be able to have a fresh start with your clients, to be able to really address the elephant in the room, so to speak, for lack of a better word? How do you get ready?
I
How
love
does
those
Smit get
questions.
ready?
I don't think anyone's ever asked me that before. I love it.
Thank you. ADHD will do that to you.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So every day looks different for me,
Mhm.
because I think ADHD, right? Like,
For sure.
everything I read is always like, you need a routine, you need a routine. My brain finds that really hard. So I
Mm.
have a few routines that I kind of oscillate between.
Tremendous. Love it.
Um, and so I think flexibility is good, right? I think I'm kind of, and that again might be the way my mind is wired.
Sure.
I'm all for having, I love rituals. I think
Okay.
rituals are really beautiful. And I also think that we need flexibility in our rituals. And so I think it's learning to tap into what your inner knowing is, to what you need in that moment. And we're not
Yeah.
all very good at figuring that out. So I think for me, some of the things I like to do is I really love to get outside as early as I can in the day. Not every day
Good.
do I make it, but
Mhm.
sometimes it's just a quick walk around the block, or just even sitting outside and having a coffee or something like that. And yeah, I try and move my body every day as much as I can.
Mhm.
And then I think, ahead of seeing clients, one of the practices that I have is, I really, before I enter the space with them, so whether that's if I'm seeing them online or if I'm coming into a room where they are, I bring them up in my mind, and I really try and put my mind with them. So I have this
Beautiful.
intention of being with them because
Wow.
there's some amazing research that shows that we can feel that in each
That's
other.
like a method acting
Yeah,
practice,
yeah.
practical thing. Yeah.
And I really notice, I think I notice the difference when I do that. So
Right.
you know, when I'm in that space with a client, I'm there for them. And so it's really, of course, like I am a human being, so I am impacted and I have good days and bad days. And it's really about trying to be honest with them about that as well. Like if I'm tired, I'll say to a client, I'm tired. They don't
Yeah.
have to know my whole story, but I want them to know that anything they're sensing in me is not about them.
Right.
It's
Right.
my own experience, because, and in doing that, I
Powerful.
model it to them as well, that
Beautiful.
it's beautiful to be able to say to someone, this is how I'm feeling today, because we're all making up stories about each other all the time,
That's
right?
another thing. I made up a story that I was an actor, that that I was they did tried to stand my hand at stand-up comedy, that I'm
Amazing.
related to a famous actress, that my dad, and all these like stories are made up. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I have, I've had, but you're right. It's like that's why I never went to my 10-year reunion, because, or 20 for that matter, because everyone has a story they're gonna make up. But it's true. People have defense mechanisms, right? It comes
Yeah.
down to that, or what would you say, Nikki?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think it comes down to staying safe,
Safety,
and
once again.
always, and our body and brain is always scanning for safety, and that's not even within our
Wow.
consciousness. You
Wow.
know, we're constantly trying to figure out, am I going to survive? And so, and staying in connection with each other. And so that's why we kind of have these narratives that.
Beautiful.
Mhm.
I love it. I love it. So beautifully and powerfully said. I really enjoyed this episode that we're working on right this now. Leave us with the, let's say, like a small changes that we can do every day for everyday life. So, make more life a little more manageable, if you will. What
Hmm. I
can we do?
think
More
I
water for
think
sure,
water sounds good. Always just add water.
huh?
Um, I
We're
think
plants after all, right?
I think that if we can stay in curiosity a little bit more, everyone is doing the best they can with what they have.
Mhm,
And so if we can take a moment to be a little bit curious about, why am I responding the way I'm responding in this moment? And
mhm.
why might this person be responding in the way that they are? And if there's a pause, it really changes everything.
Wow, it's beautiful.
Mhm.
What about burnout? Everybody suffers from burnout these days. What do you think is the number one root cause of burnout? I mean, like we're talking about is it the compound, the micro stressors
Mhm.
that are little by little compounding on you, or could it be just a series of things
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
that's
I think it always is multifaceted. I always
Mhm,
think that there's so many aspects, whether it be our relationships or our experience in
mhm.
our bodies, and the modern world is stressful. But yeah, most of the time
Work could be stressful.
work
My
is
job is
stressful.
stressful many a times. I think uh, uh, for a lot of the people that work in my field, we get stressed out. I'm sure a lot of people will be watching this. I hope we get
Mhm.
burnt out because, I mean, for me anyway, it's working day in day out with same personalities, day in day out. And I'm going to talk about the students. Now we're talking about staff. So
Okay.
the personalities that people bring in, and having to juggle that every day and put up a poker face. You have to put up this face, this like you said, narratives. But a lot of times we don't deal with the elements that have brought us there. We don't deal with the actual thing, with the actual
Mm.
problem, the solution to the problem, and it builds up over time. So that's my way of coping. I'll be honest with you. I love music, and a lot of people would think it's classical. I play heavy metal. I play heavy
Amazing.
metal, and it
Amazing.
works for me, right? Because honestly,
Intensity.
I'm
Yeah.
not joking. This is not a joke. I play heavy metal music and it helps me. It helps me relax.
Mhm.
Now, it's against the norm, against, going against the grain. A lot of people are like, dude, come on, classical music, whatever helps you. It's whatever helps me relax. So that's what I do. I have a lot of conversations I'm having now. This, believe it or not, started when mom was I've been doing radio and podcasts for many years, right? Like maybe at least a good 8 or 9 years. I
Wow.
started radio, and everything was because I had the voice. Oh, you have this voice, blah blah blah, and you could talk for hours on end. Now my wife says, you know what, you're getting annoying. Go do your podcast. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I find that this to me is therapeutic. Therapy happens when I speak to other. I mean, case in point, you are an actual therapist, so thank God. But a lot of times I talk to, and you can charge me later, brother. We're having this conversation. You can say, dude, you gotta charge you later. No, but I tend to talk to people and I learn from everybody. Everyone I have on, I learn. And I find that it helps me. It helps me with the burnout. It helps me with things because it really opens up the world to me. It's almost like the internet, like you close the gap. You talk about things, and, oh my God, I didn't know that. And almost like I'm learning because um I don't like reading. I can't do reading anymore. The
Uh-huh.
ADHD, I
Yeah.
can't do the reading. So I only read, the text and whatever information I get, and it's one of them things that I can't seem to hunker down and do any reading. But I could do a whole page, It's a page, right? A page is
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Realistically, it's quantity. It's quality, not quantity. So
And I think you're so, it's a creative expression for you as
mhm.
well, perhaps, right? It's also a space where you seem to really love the connection, and then
Yes,
it's
I
this
do.
creativity. You're thinking, you're so curious, and so
Right.
that's so grounding. I can
Yeah.
imagine, right?
Yeah.
So
It
like
really
I
is.
feel like I'm also in my work, I feel, you know, it's a bit controversial to say this, I guess, but therapy is bi-directional because it's a
Sure.
relationship. So
Yeah.
I am impacted by the work I do in very similar ways and some different ways that my clients are, because
Yeah.
it's a relationship, right? So I too am changed by the work, and so I think some of us
Love it.
have jobs where we really get fueled by them, and
Yeah.
there it's a passion, and um, it's a thin line, though, right? Like
Yeah,
it's a
it
thin
really
line
is, because
between
it
passion and
starts like
fatigue.
this, and then there are moments where you're gonna be
Yeah,
dipping. It's gonna hit some valleys and some snags
you
because
still
over
need some
time, right?
rest,
Yeah,
right? Yeah, yeah.
you do something too many times forever, and your body kind of goes, I don't feel as excited, exhilarated as I did right off the gate. But I enjoy what I love. It sounds to me that you love helping. And I think that's where it's at. We have to know our why in everything we do and come back to that why it is that
Hmm.
you do what you do. And
Yeah,
only then can you appreciate your job better, because it's not a job if you're helping somebody,
right,
right?
right, right.
Um, Last thoughts. Leave us with some last thoughts, because I feel like we could do part two for sure. I've never
We,
gone. I usually don't go to 48. Now it's like we're almost at 50. So we're gonna taper off at 50. I promise you. We're gonna have to get you back in for some more
I know. I feel
fun
like I
time.
could talk
Yeah.
to you for hours.
Thank you.
Well, I just
Likewise.
think, like, thank you for what you do. It's just so beautiful the way that you just are so generous with yourself. So I just
Thank you.
have a lot of appreciation, and I've really enjoyed being in this space with you.
I did as well, and I got to tell you, I felt like the same way. Like it's great when you match the same energy, like you said.
Hmm.
And I hope we took away, because I know I did a lot of cool information, things that
Yeah.
I could see the world a little different as a result of this interaction. So thank you, and God bless you for that. Nikki
Thank
Smith, ladies and gentlemen, what can
thank
I say?
you. Thanks for
Beyond
having me.
blessed. Thank you so much, Nikki. Until next time, guys, that's my show. Hello and goodbye until we meet again. I hope everybody has a happy and prosperous year. I'm sure I'll be saying this a few thousand times, because I'll do like another 10 episodes before the year is out. Nikki Smith, all the best to you. God bless you for
Thank
everything you do,
you.
and keep on helping those children.
Thank you.